Hello, this is Lindsay Simons of Creating Community for Good podcast. Did you know that after the first gift that a donor gives to an organization, data shows that donor retention is 23% as compared to 60% after a second gift? What that means is that there's a 23% likelihood that a donor will give a second time after they've given one gift, and then 60% likelihood that they'll give a third or fourth gift after that second gift. So the best way to retain your donors is to acknowledge their investment, build a reputation, and demonstrate impact. While there's certainly value in widening your community of supporters, if you seek sustainable, realistic projections and high-value donor relationships, focus first on current donors. As the song goes, love the one you're with. Now, what you're about to see is a clip of an interview with a donor retention expert, Ashley Dittmar. This is only about a 15-minute clip, and there's a full episode of the podcast that you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts if you tune into Creating Community for Good. Also, be sure to check out the website and subscribe to my newsletter where I share key resources and my own reflections on the topics. The best way to do that is go to the website, www.creatingcommunityforgoodpodcast.com. You can listen to the full episode of the podcast there, hear the intro, and much more. Thank you and shine on. So what are the key elements that you would add from your database, your Excel, and put it into CRM? And then what might be missing that you'd want to make sure are added to have optimal donor retention and donor engagement?
So really all you need is a donor name and some sort of contact information.
Okay, baseline information.
Baseline and history, their financial history. If you know nothing else, you can start. And that's really because you can craft your first message thoughtfully. And how I do that is through Salesforce has these email templates where you can create your own email. So it looks like I just spent 10 minutes writing this personal email, but it's all templated. And then what I do is I just obviously populate the name and then maybe change the first sentence. But I have 4 solid ones that I always work with.
Okay.
And I'm at a new organization right now. So it's prime opportunity and they're moving from Excel files to CRM for the first time.
Yeah.
So I know what it feels like. I'm going through it right now, even though I do have CRM experience at previous organizations. And what I'm focusing on is if this is someone's first gift, that's my template. My template's that first gift email.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, thank you so much. I wanted to reach out to you personally. I noticed that this is your first gift. And then in parentheses, I say, please correct me if I'm wrong. Because let's be real, data is never 100%.
Yeah.
So it invites the person to not be offended if maybe it's their 5th gift or 10th gift. And then I go on to introduce myself as a new employee and just say that I'm so excited to be here to share the impact of their philanthropy, to answer any questions, to provide any updates, and really just as a first person, I'm the first director of development at Crisis Text Line, being that first real staff member that's available for our donors. Mm-hmm. And so I introduce myself, and then again, I just say a quick, we appreciate all that you do and you're making a big difference. I also ask in that template, how did you originally hear about us? So I ask like a probing question. And I get a lot of responses. Again, it's those responses I never expect to hear from someone. Thank you for reaching out to me. Congratulations on the new job. It's really engaging. And so that's the one template. The second one I have is a second gift or maybe a third gift. So again, I'm saying, I noticed your continued support. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then I have one for monthly donors. And then I have one for multi-year. So someone that's been giving for years and years and years. And because I'm new, that means that I realize that I'm acknowledging them for the first time, even though they've been giving for years and years and years.
Sure. That's great.
And so really, you really just need the email or phone number and then the donor history, and you can start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you have those 2 things, I think you can start that. And then once you hear back, then I put in the little description field, who they are, how they heard about us, what they're passionate about. Do they want to hear back? Do they want updates? Do they want me to, send a end of year report when it's done?
Mm-hmm.
I don't normally do those traditional stewardship, like matrix outreach, which a lot of people do. And what I mean by those are if you go to any like fundraising workshop, and I've talked about this on our Clubhouse chat, but there's always this like pyramid, and at the top are the top level donors, and they're, it's a smaller piece at the top than it is at the base. And those people also get the highest, priority and the highest engagement and the highest interaction with leadership and events and everything else, right? And the way I've noticed things evolving into higher revenues is if you just flip it. And for me, instead of having the top funders and revenues, look at it as engagement. I want to flip it and have the most people in my entire database be engaged. So $1 million donor, that might be being on our board or being a volunteer, coming to those events. But for a $5 donor, it's receiving one of those templated emails that they think is a personal email, which it is because they respond and then I respond back personally and we start a conversation. And so that takes 45 seconds. So as a fundraiser, you can be efficient and give someone who gives $5 the same level of I see you and I appreciate you as the $1 million donor. And that way you're having the most people engaged, and that little tip at the bottom are the people that never heard from you. And maybe that's just because they gave $3 and there was too much volume and you couldn't do it. But I want to strive for everyone to be feeling like they've been seen when they give. And I think that's going to really drive retention, drive revenues. At my last organization, we went from 25% to 50% donor retention in my 3 years.
Wow.
And the retention rate second year was around 31%, but 83% of our revenues came from that 31%. So if you're thinking about who do I have to prioritize to make my numbers, to make those goals for us to grow, to hit those capital campaign, to double those revenues, that's where I focus my time. And because it works.
I love it. That's awesome. So do you have any golden rules that you live by in terms of how much you should be reaching out, how often, how to systematize it? Do you have flags that are unique to each person, or do you do batch working?
I don't do batch working. I wish I could say I have like a certain formula. Like today, it's almost 2:00. What did I do today? I submitted a $50,000 grant proposal to a foundation. Yeah. And then I sent about 40 emails to people that gave online. Wow. From $3 to $1,000.
And they were all unique. Well, they were templated, or they were unique, or what? Templated?
So, templated for the original outreach, but then I also have inboxes from my outreach from yesterday. And so I was responding to some of those donors, or someone responds and I'm in my inbox and it's the top thing. I just quickly respond. And then I fill in their CRM because I learned a little bit more about them. So I filled out their profile and then I'm here talking to you. But that's like what my normal day, like I feel major donors take a lot of time. Grants take a lot of time. You submit that grant report. I'm not going to hear back from that fund for 6 weeks, maybe. So what am I doing in those 6 weeks? I'm not going to be just writing out grants. Grant writers do that. I'm a single fundraiser on a team, so I can't just focus on one category. And that's why I mix and match throughout the day and reach people when I have 30 minutes between meetings. Send out a few of those templated emails. Or finally have a donor call if I can get a call with someone. But I'm a millennial and I don't call as much as I probably should.
I want to tell you that phone calls are so underrated. I have a client right now that's like, can't get in touch with this person. I've been trying. I'm like, why don't you just call them? Like, don't schedule a call. Don't email about a call. Just call. And of course she got through.
Time is sacred right now. So to get someone's time, I think, one golden rule I do have, which I'm trying to aspire to actually, is I try really hard to not walk away from any conversation, meeting, or email and say, I wasted that person's time. And to build that rapport and to build that every time Ashley reaches out to me, I know it's, a meaningful dialogue or something that is really valuable to me as the donor. That means every time I'm in their inbox or my phone call goes through, they're going to pick up and they're going to prioritize it. And I haven't mastered it, but that's my vision. And I know that some amazing fundraisers have mastered it. And I think that's so important. And again, that's like being authentic. That's knowing that time is valuable and people want to feel seen and heard and appreciated, but also want to know that if you're pitching them or developing a big relationship, this huge capital campaign that's going to take a long time to get to the point of that major, major gift, make all of those touch points meaningful because it can get easy to not make them meaningful.
Let's think about what do you think is the most meaningful touch point? So what would you, when you hang up, you're like, okay, I hit these 3 points, therefore it was meaningful. What does that look like to you?
I think if it's a cultivation and you're trying to understand, it's really understanding why someone's passionate about the cause and what was the incentive to give or their intention to give. Because here's one of my favorite stories. It wasn't on my team, but I heard it maybe through a conference. I don't even remember at this point, but it was a mother and she had 3 kids and she gave to the local library. I think a library is on a lot of people's lists of that's a great cause. I understand why I would give. The development officer was really trying to understand why this woman who's not really wealthy, but gave a major gift of $50,000. And so it took a few touch points and a few meetings to really get there, but she finally opened up and it had nothing to do with this being a community resource. She was in a domestic violence relationship and left in the middle of the night and had nowhere to sleep. And she slept in the library with her 3 kids. And so I still get goosebumps hearing about it. And so I think a meaningful conversation, you're never always going to have a breakthrough. But I think a meaningful conversation where you leave and you feel like you know that person better and that you can help connect them to the cause that you're working on in a better way, then that's worth your time. Because at Crisis Text Line, a lot of people understand our service and texting in, understand the need and mental health. But we're doing some really amazing work with machine learning, or we're about to expand into Spanish, or we're doing a lot of research and working with policy to shape the mental health sector and help with mental health initiatives and programs that will help reduce the need for our service. And so I think you can catch someone and bring them into your larger cause, but when you start really understanding what they're passionate about, if they're a tech person, talk to them about the machine learning, talk about our data. If they're heartfelt, let's talk about this. Or if they're bilingual, let's talk about Spanish. So I think that's what I mean by meaningful.
Cool. I love it. So what I'm hearing is, people want to feel heard. They want to feel unique and special. They want to feel appreciated. And then they want to feel lit up in some kind of way, right? So you want to inspire that person so that they want to engage further. They want to know more about what does it mean that you're doing AI for bilingual? That's really innovative and important. Or what does it mean that you've saved this one woman's life because she had a place that was safe overnight for her and her 3 children? So yeah, I think those are the touch points that I like to see as well. It's just making that person feel unique and special, offering gratitude, and then offering inspiration and something that lights them up.
And in the future, when there's additional opportunities down the line, I'm not coming with our Spanish expansion work when they're really passionate about our equity work in machine learning, because there's a slight bias with machine learning. So
you're taking notes in your CRM.
Just like you have one friend that really likes one hobby, another one that likes the other. You're not going to invite the person that doesn't like to go fishing and camping to go fishing and camping. You want to bring people,
meet them where they are. Right?
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
With this latest valuable episode, we'd love to thank you for joining us on the Creating Community for Good podcast. If you found today's show valuable, simply visit our website, creatingcommunityforgood.com, to to leave a review, as well as to get access to additional resources and relevant links from this show. Stay tuned for more episodes.